Hey, what's up guys and welcome back to Anime King. And today I'm going to be giving you part 5 of What If Naruto Was a Hope of the Uchiha clan. Remember to get this one to 100 likes as usual. Share this to all of your friends in your social media platform. And also guys, stay in tune for the rest of what is coming our way over Anime King 2 and Anime King 3. And remember for you, yes, I have 3 channels. Anime King 2, Anime King 3, which I post what if on every single day for you guys to enjoy. So go ahead and click that red subscribe button and become part of the Anime King family. And thank you for all of your help and your support. Remember to comment down below and tell me if you're new, I'll be replying talking about to all of you. So yeah, without further ado, what is to begin this new episode? Start the intro. So the last time we left off, everything was packed, as it was time to say goodbye. As his father gave him a nod of respect, as Madara gave him a hug, to see his brother go off like this. But the both of them will continue to train and continue to get stronger, no matter what, as they would do anything for their family. So with that he had to move out with his aunt, but before he could, Kurama arrived. As Naruto stopped the guards, as Kurama had somehow shrunk himself to be no more bigger than a horse, but he looked quite ferocious. But Naruto said that he was with me, as he got on top of Kurama, as the fox agreed to accompany him, as he made his way with Kurama. As they walked through the dense forest, the Senjus were watching them. As Naruto knew that they were there, as Hoshirama noticed that. Hoshirama had a younger sister, her name was Natty, and she looked just like their mother. As the news about Naruto being a Kinslayer had spread, and being a Kinslayer was the worstest thing amongst any clan. So they saw him as a, well, person to despise. And not to mention he killed their older brother, so Tsunade made a vow to kill him. But Naruto had his own vow, as he was gonna kill Tobirama, the one who killed Asuna. 8 years passed after that. The Kin Guard was created under Naruto's command, as the selection of boys respected Naruto, as Naruto had also protected 2 of the normal civilians that came with the Uchiha clan war, but he trained them into becoming guards, a part of his King Guard, as that was Mikoto and her brother. As Neri watched Naruto as he had grown up to be such a fine leader, and still at a young age, Madara was making strive of the clan. But when it comes towards certain area, Madara was no match for Naruto, especially when it comes towards Kinjutsu. But with the clan, this clan was thriving happily. But the other clans, they were big inside, as Hoshirama was a very, well, influential person, and he was gaining a lot of clans on his side. That is why the Hatake clan showed up. Leader Sakumo came, as he asked for their assistance, as the Yamanaka clan has took his daughter. But Hoshirama did not want to do anything against them because he was trying to get the Yamanaka clan to join the Senjus for a long time now. Naruto knew what his father was doing was a waste of time because the Yamanaka would never join them because of their visual prowess, and given the fact that they also had mind invading techniques, they would never join them. So Naruto agreed, as long as the Hatake joined them, and devote all their service to them, which the man would gladly accept to get his daughter back. Even though they weren't a big clan, they would join the Uchihas, as many clans had joined over the past 8 years. So with that, Naruto moved out with the King's Guard, as Neri told him to be safe out there. As they made their way, they managed to sneak into the forest, where we find out that Mikoto and Naruto has been, well, having a thing lately, but Naruto was afraid to go any step further, given the fact that if anyone found out, she would be shamed as the one to fraternize with the Kinslayer, and he didn't want to ruin her as well. But she didn't care, she didn't matter one bit. After that day, the admiration that she had for him turned into something different. They made their way along the coast, as Kurama was going to be the distraction. None of the boys contacted Shisui, none of them knew how powerful Kurama was. Shisui elected to go with him and be a, well, help the distraction as well, in case the fox got wounded, as he still didn't understand how powerful Kurama was. Kurama has not spoken to anyone else but Naruto, so they thought that he could not talk. So with that, the group split up as they went after the Yamanakas. So yeah guys, so these guys what I thought you guys can switch across the place, check out for yourself. So what this will be in this new episode. Shisui was currently up in the trees. He watched Kurama, who was walking on the ground, calm as ever as he made his way towards the sensory barrier that the Yamanakas had. The clan barrier teams are always on duty. A few more steps and he would breach it. As Shisui was still surprised that Naruto would trust the fox to cause a worthy enough distraction so that they could sneak in. The Yamanakas would definitely try to overpower it. But Naruto had trust in the fox, and so would Shisui. Shisui always heard the rumors about Naruto that he was a dreadful, heartless person. Up to this day, the King's Guard did not know why Naruto killed those people. But the day when the Fuma clan came, and all the Uchiha guards went to protect the nobles and the precious people of the clan, Naruto stood by, with the fox at his side as he protected all the common workers. He protected the people that the Uchiha saw as lesser beings just because they didn't have the fighting prowess, but yet Naruto stood his ground and mercilessly slaughtered the Fuma clan with his own hands and the fox at his side. So Shisui had great faith in him, as Naruto has always went over and beyond to prove himself despite the rumors and the words they called him. But he was undoubtedly loyal to the clan and did everything to make sure that the clan always stayed afloat no matter what, despite everything they say about him. And Shisui saw the compassion and care in the boy. That is why he became one of Naruto's king guards, and he was trained personally by him, and he would follow him into dire situations. The fox then breached the barrier. It was then that he released such potent chakra, even Shisui in his location was blown away. Shisui dropped towards the ground as he felt the demonic chakra overriding his senses. For the first time in his life, he felt utter fear gripped his heart. The sheer amount of energy that the beasts released made Shisui realize that this was no normal animal at all. It was possibly a powerful summon or something much worse, as the entire barrier collapsed as the Yamanakas made their way, as Shisui could already sense the first responders coming to eliminate the threat. But despite his fear, he stepped beside the fox and got ready for a battle. Kurama raised an eyebrow and he looked towards Shisui as he saw the fear in the boy's eyes. Well, he couldn't help it. The amount of power he just released was more than 100 veteran ninjas, and that was just a pinch of his overall power. Still, he had to give the Uchiha credit for standing by his side. It was then that Kurama released all of his 9 tails and grew. Shisui looked up in utter shock. "If you die, I'll eat you," Kurama said in amusement. As Shisui was shocked, did he just talk? Strangely enough, the fox watched as Shisui smiled, as he simply nodded, as they turned towards the army that was charging towards them, the first full settlement ready to slaughter their enemies as the Yamanakas came out. But Kurama simply grinned, a vicious, deadly grin on his face. Meanwhile, Naruto watched as the Yamanakas run out, hundreds at a time, run out of the massive clan castle, as the civilians, subjects, they scream in fear inside. He placed his hand on the ground. As he nodded as he felt the pieces falling into place. With a flick of his wrist, he motioned for Itachi to move, which he did. "What happens now?" asked Mikoto. "They will surrender, or I'll destroy them," said Naruto. As Naruto turned to look at the three of them behind him, Mikoto looked a bit shaky, never seen a conflict on this scale before. Kakashi looked like he was ready to shed blood, while Kagami masked his emotions quite well. "At this rate, dozens will die," said Mikoto. "Hundreds," said Naruto. She weakly nodded, but it was her duty to follow his command, and there was no doubt in his eyes. "Mikoto, the Yamanakas are holding Kiara, Hatake, in the 3rd tower of the castle. You will rescue her without fail." "What about the guards that are rushing outside?" Kakashi asked seriously. "When most of them are outside, we will slip inside and make our way towards their communication center. There, I shall end this conflict or destroy this clan forever," said Naruto. "Understood," said Mikoto as she flashed away in a Shin. As Naruto pulled his blade, as Kagami and Takashi stepped right beside him. "We take this town tonight." Moments later, the 3 shadows swept across the castle, as they were currently masked in Yamanaka uniforms that they borrowed from some of their men. Most of the security force had run off the action, out in the deep forest. As Naruto couldn't help but grin as Kurama must be having fun. The beast had been forced to keep a low profile for years. Only in the Fuma clan incident was he allowed to actually show some real mirth in the battle. But despite his friendly nature, Kurama was a beast of destruction and death. Naruto has never forgotten that fact, or nor will the Yamanakas after this day. He still had his doubts about exposing Kurama's true power, knowing that the Hagoromo and Kaguya clan was after him. For a reason the beast did not know. But it was not just them. If anyone knew, the entire world would turn against Kurama, as they would want to capture him for his power. But Kurama has found himself a place amongst the Uchiha due to his help in the massacre of the Fuma clan. With that thought in mind, Naruto gave the signal as he saw the two guards standing right at the communication post. Takashi and Kagami fired darts as it hit the guards near neck. The next second, Naruto moved and grabbed their bodies and hid it. As he placed his hand on the wall, sensing for any other presence, as he sent a couple strong ones up at the top stairwell, but nothing down here. As they made their way, as there were some weaker ones down here. When they pushed past the upper level and went up to the second floor, pushing through the second floor door. As they came upon 20 Yamanakas standing there with their weapons drawn. I guess it was too much hope for a smooth takeover, said Naruto with a grin. As a few Yamanaka went through hand sign as they tried to, but Naruto and the group threw smoke bombs. As Naruto activated Sharingan in his face mask, as he moved in the smoke, the first 3 guards were dead before they could even understand what happened. As Kagami and Takashi also entered the fray, a Yamanaka released a quick wind jutsu to blow away the smoke, but his neck was sliced the moment he did. When all the smoke blew away, Naruto found himself surrounded by at least 8 of the guards, while the other was over towards his friends. All of them brought down their blades to slice him to pieces as they ripped into his flesh. But his body burst into crows, genjutsu, as 2 kunais embedded in 2 of the Yamanaka's skull as they were fixed with wind chakra. 3 of the other guards got their heads sliced clean off. The last Yamanaka guard cursed at him loudly as the 2 of them, one to his left, one to his right, but Naruto's eyes were fixed on his friends as Kagami slammed his foot right into a Yamanaka's chest. The man coughed blood as Takashi took his head clean off. As 2 guards tried to attack Takashi from behind, as Kagami jumped over him and blocked the sword strikes with its gauntlets on his arms. The Yamanakas were feared for their manjutsu and their interrogation and torture skills. When it comes towards physical combat, they stood no chance, a trait that the Uchiha and Senju excelled at, as Kagami ducked as Takashi turned and sliced their throat wide open. The remaining 2 enemies took 2 steps backwards from Naruto, but Naruto vanished in a burst of speed. As a kunai embedded in both of their throats, they dropped dead. As Naruto tossed his stained Yamanaka uniform, as Takashi and Kagami did the same. Now dressed in his golden armor, he walked towards the door as he nodded as his friends placed explosive tags on the door. With a thunderous blast, the 3 boys rushed into his spine. 12 Yamanakas looking at them with gaping shock. As Naruto's eyes focused on one of the taller Yamanakas, as his armor, just his demeanor gave away his position. Inama Yamanaka, current clan head of the clan, looked towards the 3 Uchiha stained in blood, the blood of his people. His eyes then narrowed dangerously when he noticed the one at the front with the golden armor, with the insignia of the dragon across his chest, and the black face mask, and that dark black cloak on his back, and that sword. There was no mistaking it. Kinslayer. As Kagami and Takashi was about to move, but Naruto gave them a look as he stood back. Lord Inama, said Naruto, why have you attacked my clan without any provocation from our side? Said Inama in anger as his guards pulled their weapon, but Naruto didn't seem to care one bit. In retaliation from your crimes of your nephew, Aiwashi, Yamanaka, against the Hatake clan by abducting their heiress. Since they're our sworn allies now, it is our duty to bring them justice. Inama eyes went wide at that, as he couldn't believe the Hatakes, who were sworn enemies of the Senju, could switch side that easily to join the damn Uchihas. But then again, Hoshiyama had shown quite favoritism towards the Yamanaka clan, on Tobirama insisting to lead to this mess. Inama knew that trouble had started the moment his nephew laid eyes upon the Hatake girl when their clan had visited the Sakamu for a meeting. Inama had dearly loved his older brother who died a few years ago. His wife died before that, leaving their only son, Aiwashi, in Inama's care. He had tried to look after the boy and preserve his right as a clan head, until he became strong enough. But Aiwashi proved to be a disappointment. He was not like his parents, who fought and died for the clan. The boy was only interested in women, sex and alcohol. habits that led to all of his men bloodshed. Even so, it was the Yamanakos who got attacked tonight, and Inma had a duty to protect his people, doesn't matter who the foe was. Is that what you tell yourself? That you're a servant of justice? You who kill your own people? Inma mocked. But Naruto's emotion did not give off anything, as Inma saw that he had a good grip on his emotions, but if possible, his Sharingan seemed to burn with more hatred and malice. Your nephew is a fool, Lord Inma. Right here maybe, but a person who brought great suffering towards your great clan. He will only bring ruin towards your people, but you're the right person that your people need at this hour. What are you saying, said Inma. Sentence your nephew to whatever justice as Sakamoto Hatake deems rightful for this crime. You shall also pay recommendations for the Uchiha clan, because you have dared to harm one of our allies, and from this day forth, you will serve my clan for the rest of your time. How dare you, Inma said, as his guard stepped forward. As Naruto's smile increased, as he pointed towards the great barrier in the room that marked the fighters. In a matter of seconds, everything changed, where there were more than 1,000 Yamanakas fighting. As the two large chakra signature was Kurama and Shisui, who was facing off against 1,000 Yamanakas. They then saw 300 more appeared, and that was the Hatake clan, and hundreds more from the Uchiha clan, followed by Nidaime, who was putting her part of the clan in motion. The Yamanaka clan was surrounded. Lord Inma, our own civilians are attacking our own guards. They all seem to be in some sort of genjutsu, shouted one of the barrier ninjas. Takashi and Kagami looked at each other as they knew the one responsible, Itachi. Or, said Naruto as he pointed his blade, you can choose to defy us right now, and face the consequences. If I give the command, my forces will tear down your tower walls and storm this castle. So, what will it be? Inma stepped back as he was sweating as Naruto's killer intent raged like a dragon, forcing the Yamanakas down to their knees. As Inma was sweating badly. Hundreds will die, said Naruto as he saw the man hadn't made up his mind yet. The first wave will be your own, your civilians attacking your own men. So you will start this bloody battle by killing people that have been serving your clan for generations now. The second wave will be Hatakes, who are itching for vengeance against your clan. And then my Uchiha fighters will follow afterwards. When this castle falls, all those inside will be executed, along with your entire family. Your people will be butchered, your towers will be burned. I will destroy this castle stone by stone. And by the time I'm done, no one will ever remember that the Yamanaka clan existed, said Naruto, as he stepped forward, as he grabbed the man by his neck, as Inma had dropped to his knees, as Naruto looked him in his eyes. I'll cut off your limbs painfully and make your pregnant wife watch. But before I kill you and her, I will tear apart your stomach and show you your unborn child before killing it as well, said Naruto. As the man saw that glimpse, because of Naruto's Sharingan as he was shaking on his knees, the trembling man looked at King Slayer. If this boy was able to butcher his own people. Lord Inma, make your choice now, said Naruto, as Naruto turned and started to walk. Before he stopped, I hope you'll remember my clan's words, Inma Yamanaka, he said. And with that, he turned and left, as the man was on his knees trembling in fear. Timeskip. The King's Guard watched as the prideful, dragon symbol of the Uchiha floated side by side along with the Yamanaka flag. The fight was over. Nearly 43 Yamanakas had perished. But now the Uchihas had managed the loyalty of two great clans, boosting their powers. With Nidaime bringing the Uchihas and the Hatakes, the Yamanakas had to surrender. Loud cheers could be heard as the celebration, the cheers, praising the King Guard that assaulted the Yamanaka and rescued the heirs of the Hatake clan. Most of all, many of them were praising Naruto, many amongst the Uchihas. Young Dragon, they cheered. Nidaime couldn't help but smile as she watched her clansmen praise Naruto. Even if it was just a small amount of them, it was a start, as Naruto Uchiha once again proved himself, and this time his victory was no small feat. I asked him to do this quietly without alerting anyone, especially Senju's. With our involvement in my daughter's rescue, he broke our agreement with Sakamoto. As Nidaime looked towards him, you think we did this just to save your daughter, she said. I warned you. You will serve the Uchiha clan and none other. Do you think that you can serve and be on the good side of the Senjus, while with the Uchiha, she asked, as she gave the man a stare that froze him on the spot. Where's my daughter, he asked worriedly as he looked around. As Neri smiled. Safe with us in our stronghold. We will return her back to you once we sign the official treaty. Sakumo paled. You can't do this, he said, as his hand itched towards his sword. Gently. I have already done it, Lord Hatake. You work for us now, and it will be best if you side with us immediately, given the fact that the Senjus have called their allies. And if we get defeated, it won't be good for you at all for your betrayal. Sakumo went white. He paled when he realized the actions of his consequences. He had hoped that Naruto had done this quietly without implicating the Hatakes, but no. This woman. Neri knew that the Hatakes could not afford to side with the Uchihas, or could they with the Yamanakas because of their territories, right next to the Senju borders. Oshirama Senju would never allow the Uchihas to have any influence right in front of his doorstep. That is why she made Sakumo bring his troops to battle, in case Naruto had failed, which she knew that he would not. Her reason seemed true back then, and the man loved his daughter very much, so he did it. But now the Senjus will never forgive him for this, even if he betrayed the Uchihas. He looked at Neri as he couldn't imagine someone so beautiful could be such a deviant. She also knew had his daughter as a bargaining chip to make sure that he didn't cross any line, while Naruto had somehow intimidated Yamanaka so much that they surrendered right away. You're good at this game, said Sakumo, as he looked towards her. I always play to win, Lord Sakumo, she said. It is true, I made you believe that my nephew holds all the power, which he does to an extent. I allowed him to make the battle plan, because I see great potential within him. At the same time, I had to make sure that Uchiha clan gained something great from this little event. Not all battles are fought with the sword, said Neri. You're a dangerous woman, said Sakumo. She smirked. That I am, she said. Time skip. Neri found her beloved nephew standing on top of the castle that they conquer. As Naruto was looking at the vast forest all around them, and the people down there, as the Hatake were happy. Celebrations were happening. As Neri came over beside him. I kept my promise, said Naruto. She took his hand. Thank you, she whispered. It was her turn to uphold her promise she made to him. What was my mother like? He looked into her eyes. All she saw was a curious child. Not the man that can make his enemies cower with a simple gaze. I'm sure over the years many have already told you that you look like her. As Naruto nodded, Madara, Inabi, and Yasharu took after their father in looks and character. But you and Aizuna was Hikaru's true sons. She loved her family more than anything. Her boys meant the world for her. And she was willing to do anything even if it meant giving her life to make sure that they live. As Naruto sighed, I wonder what she would think of me now after all the things I've done. She would love you just the same even if she never knew why you did what you did. Mothers are like that. Like you, said Naruto. Yes, she said. As she glanced over the town, will you be there for the trial of Aiwashi Yamanaka? I doubt anyone wants to see the King Slayer involved in matters of justice. It will be a cruel joke, he said sarcastically. That's not true, she said. And you will be there for me. Naruto simply smiled. The things I do for my loved ones, he said. Does that include Mikoto, she asked. As Naruto froze. This woman. I haven't told anyone, nor will I ever, she said. I don't love her, said Naruto. He said honestly, but he could not understand why those treasured words escaped his lips. Neri did not chastise him or anything. She simply placed her hand on his cheek. Why don't you? Out of all the things she could have asked, this was probably the most strange one to him. Yet it also made him ponder why. He didn't feel anything more than a curious attraction towards her. She was beautiful, skilled, and caring. More than what someone like him ever deserved. Everything was perfect, yet at the same time it was not. A strange paradox. It made him chuckle, but contrary to popular beliefs, he respected women. He had kept the promise to his father of never indulging with whores, or any woman after matter of fact. Even with Mikoto, he never went beyond simple kisses, for he knew its boundaries, and if someone ever found out, it wouldn't be him that suffered, but it would be her. And he would never allow that, certainly, not to someone he truly cared about. He couldn't help but laugh at himself, because hours ago he threatened to wipe out the entire clan, no matter the innocence. But here he was now struggling with these thoughts. You're a wild dragon, said Neri, with a playful wink. I'll take that as a compliment, he said. As she bopped him on the head. I received word from your father. He's very pleased with what you have accomplished for the clan. He's proud of your loyalty towards the clan. That's all, said Naruto. She flinched on hearing his cold tone. She could understand why he harbored such feelings. As she understood why, Tajima never wrote a personal letter to Naruto, never. While Madara wrote to his brother, and talked to his brother in his letters, Tajima never spent his time to write a letter to talk to Naruto, and, well, it hurt him. He only sent acknowledgements to Neri to tell him, but he never wrote to him personally. Neri was ashamed of her brother after everything that happened to Naruto, after everything that he did. She thought that Tajima would show more appreciation and care towards the boy. But then again, over everything, Tajima only care about the Uchiha name. Madara never cared if his father gave him love or attention, but Naruto was a different story. One that made more complicated by the dark history shared between father and son. The one only Neri and Madara knew. She was still amazed at Naruto's loyalty despite everything that had happened to him. Never once had the boy broken his vows or promises to the clan, fighting for those who despise him no matter what. "You're an honorable man," she said. But he shook his head. "Honor? I'm a dog," he said. "My father's mad dog, Naruto," as she looked towards him with anger. As Naruto's eyes morphed into the Sharingan as he looked towards her, as she saw that look in his eyes. "The only reason I allow these morons to mock me and judge me and hate me is because of one simple fact. Not my father, not this clan, but my brother," he said. He was shaking right before her eyes. Despite not showing it, he was letting it out now. All the pain, all the frustration, all the rage burning in those Sharingan eyes. She had no words that could comfort him or make his pain go away, so she simply hugged him as she held on to him tight. "I'll fight for Madara as long as I can, enduring everything I can, until my end comes." Before she could console him, he broke the hug and disappeared with a quick sunshine. Time skip, Shizu was strolling around the Yamanaka compound as he looked around the territory to understand the terrain better, until he heard clashing as he turned. As he walked off into the woods, that is where he saw one person fighting his replicas. As he realized it was Naruto, as he was facing off against shadow clones and water clones as well. The sheer amount of clones that he was using was a testament to his gigantic chakra reserves. But Shizu had fought with Naruto for years now, and Naruto fought with the next, but right now, he was moving brutally. His clones tried to gang up on him, but they were all slaughtered. Shizu watched as Naruto released a massive burst of lightning that incinerated several of the clones. He watched as Naruto coated his body in a dark, blue armor of lightning. He thanked the gods that Yamanaka surrendered, as he watched as Naruto massacre the clone with a burst in 5 seconds. Despite being the clan head son and Madara's younger brother, this was the main reason why no Uchiha stand against Naruto, because he wouldn't stand a chance in hell. As Shizu walked out, "You look angry," he said. "I'm always angry," said Naruto. "You want to fight?" Naruto asked. As Shizu saw that Naruto was barely done, releasing his anger, he pulled out his own blade. As Naruto raised his own blade, they vanished as they met each other in the riverbed. Their blades clashed against each other with tremendous force, as Shizu felt himself being pushed back with nothing but brute force. If it was an all-out battle, testing Naruto on a water source was the worst idea you could ever do, but Naruto was just using his blade right now. Shizu then lost grip on his blade. Given the fact that Naruto was adding strength, he realized that he was going to pierce Shizu right through the heart. So, he gripped his own blade as he pulled back, as Shizu smirked, as he placed his blade as he gripped it tight and placed it towards Naruto's chest. "Yield." But Naruto held on to his blade tight as he wouldn't back down. Shizu pressed the blade closer. "Yield," he said, as he saw that Naruto gripping his blade tighter. "You're better than all of us when it comes to most things. But if you lose your cool, things won't go well," said Shizu, as Naruto sighed as he released his blade. "What's the matter? I haven't seen you riled up like this in a long while," said Shizu, as Naruto looked down at the calm water below them. "Yesterday, I threatened to murder our entire clan and kill an unborn child before his parents. And my father said that he's proud of my actions." As Shizu saw the look on Naruto's face, he wished the people that called him a traitor and scum could see him right now and they'd realize their mistake for judging him. "We did what we had to win," said Shizu. "What if they had not surrendered?" said Naruto. "Does that mean I had to kill every last one of them for the actions of just one man?" said Naruto in a disappointed tone. "That's the way of this world," Shizu said. "Then it's messed up," said Naruto. Shizu did not blame Naruto for shouting out like that, because if the Yamanaka chose to fight, Naruto had to butcher them down to the last child. Even in the case of the Fuma clan, they did not surrender as Naruto gave them the option, but they still chose to fight, so he had to butcher them down to the last man that survived. As Naruto was not ruthless like Tajima or indifferent like Madara, he felt things differently. That fact has always been clear to Shizu. "Then why don't you do something about it?" as Naruto blinked at Shizu's words. "What?" he asked. "If you feel that there's something wrong, correct it." You are luckier than most in that aspect, Shisui said. Don't you know who I am, said Naruto. But Shisui just stared at him. Yes. You're the son of Tajima Uchiha, heir to the greatest clan in the world, the finest swordsman in the entire elemental nation, and the wielder of legendary Sharingan. In my eyes, you're one of the most powerful persons in this world, said Shisui. Before Naruto could say something, Shisui raised his hand, but Naruto still spoke. If I was strong, my brothers wouldn't be dead. If I was powerful, then I wouldn't have... Shisui placed a hand on his shoulder, stopping him. I know, he said, as Naruto froze a bit, before turning towards Shisui. How? I saw it happen from the shadows. Kagami, and Itachi as well. We chose to serve under your command because we know exactly who you are. A true ninja is not the most powerful or the strongest, but the one who protects from the shadows. The one who bear the burden, not getting any recognition, so that the others could see the light. And for that you don't need jutsu or strength, but a pure and dedicated heart. You have that heart and I want you to use it to achieve all that you want, said Shisui. As Naruto looked away, I just want this senseless fighting to end. I may never have a family of my own someday, but my brother will. And I don't want him to witness and do the things that we have done, said Naruto. There can never be two swords for one scabbard, Naruto. The Uchiha and Senjus are their swords. And as long as we're at war, the elemental nation will never know peace. Unless we achieve peace between ourselves first. No other clan or daimyo would ever think of it because of their fear of the both of us. And also what we bestowed upon them through our endless conflicts. You have seen this fact right in front of us, with the Yamanakas and the Atake clan. As Naruto pondered over those words, it was one thing to protect your clan, but kill people over and over. That was not something that he wanted to do. And just like Shisui said, the Uchihas and Senju are just two extremely powerful families. The remaining clans fear them, but at the same time, neither the Senjus or Uchihas can hold the land for the longest time. As long as the Uchihas has Madara and the Senjus has Hoshirama, neither family will lose. What do you want with your life, Shisui? Naruto asked. Shisui laughed a bit as he looked up in the sky. I just want to do the right thing, he said. And what's that, Naruto asked. I've already done it, said Shisui. With those cryptic words, he walked away, leaving behind a bit confused but much calmer Naruto. Time skip. As Naruto remained silent through the clan trials of Aiwashi Yamanaka, as he watches his aunt and Sakamoto question the reason behind all of this. He quickly confessed his guilt, saying that it was an impulsive move on his part and it should not have happened. He actually had the gall to ask for mercy, plead for it. The clan head offered a lot of lands and riches to spare his nephew. Naturally, Nyere was in favor of the option because that would ensure a peace between the two clans. All eyes shifted towards Sakamoto, accepted the deal. The man was looking down at the table as Naruto wondered what choice Sakamoto made. But then surprisingly, Sakamoto turned his head and looked towards Naruto. As Naruto turned his head towards Aiwashi, as despite the fear in the boy's face, you could see that glint of him getting away with it. As Sakamoto couldn't pass up this offer, no one could. But 43 lives were lost because of this man's stupidness. As Sakamoto looked towards Naruto, who gave a glance in the man's direction, Aiwashi Yamanaka. As Sakamoto saw it within Naruto's eyes, as Aiwashi face turned into a small smirk, the tiniest smirks, knowing that he was going to get away with it. For your crimes that spark a bloody conflict between our clans and the loss of lives on both sides, I sentence you to death. Shock went through the trial. Even Neri was surprised. Despite everything that he was offered, he chose to kill the man. Then she saw Naruto got to his feet and she knew what was about to happen. As the guards grabbed Aiwashi as none of his clan members stepped forward to help him despite his scream and protests, as they made him kneel. In the last words, said Naruto, "Screw you, Kingslayer. You're not my type," said Naruto. With a single swipe, the head was taken off cleanly. As Naruto wiped the blood off his blade, as the body was taken away along with the head. When that was done, he looked, as Sakamoto's eyes showed weariness. But he had a bit of relief. Inuma looked downcast, as he knew what his nephew did, and he deserved his punishment, even if it meant death. Claiming that it was a compulsion that made him take that girl, and caused so many of their members to die. The Kingslayer words run through his head. That boy would be the fault of his clan, and the fact that Naruto's the one that took his head removed any of the will for the Yamanakas to retaliate. because it was the Kingslayer that took his head, the young dragon, and none of them would dare try to go up against him. "It's done," said Naruto. Before anyone could say anything, the door was swung open as a messenger rushed inside. He said one word: "Senjus." Not a second later, alarms sprang across the entire town. But as chaos started to spread and panic, a killing intent made everyone went quiet as he looked towards the center of the room. As Naruto gripped his blade, "Come with me, and let's burn some tree huggers," he said. As one, the Uchihas rose, their clan famous, bloodlust, and madness showing deeply within their eyes. Following them was the Hatake. As Sakumo gave a nod, the Yamanakas also followed after a nod from their leader, but they weren't so boasting about it. As Naruto glanced towards his aunt, who nodded, as Naruto led the march into battle. Moments later, as civilians ran into the castle, as a large army was behind him, ready to fight and die in battle. As Naruto felt his heart beating, his blood pumping, his eyes showing that look of madness. He wasn't one to actively seek it out, but if there was one family that he loved to enjoy the battle with, it was none other than Senju's. He could still see his brothers, all of them dying right in front of his eyes. He trembled with hate and anger as his Sharingan was burning, as his kin guards stood around him, proud and silent. As Naruto felt the darkest part of his soul merging into reality, even Kurama maintained his distance, and he was not going to participate in this battle, knowing how personal it meant to Naruto, because Kurama could end this fight single-handedly. But Naruto wanted this, and Naruto also wanted to keep the attention off of Kurama, and if he fought against Senju and end them rather quickly, it would bring more attention on him. In that moment, Kurama saw every sign of danger awakening in the boy, as he glared at the thousands of men coming towards them. "Any of you try to flee, cowards, or die without killing at least 3 Senjus, I'll burn you and your families alive," said Naruto, as he saw them all nod fearfully, as he turned back around viciously, as him and King's guard stepped forward. "Each of you take up commands of different units," said Naruto. "I'll hold the center." Naruto, a massive force of Senjus, Sarutobis, Inuzakas, Akimichis are approaching towards us. Our sensory team placed their numbers twice than our own, said Kagami. "More bastards to kill," said Naruto. Each of the King's guard looked at each other uncertain over Naruto's violent behavior. They had known that he was a person to be, well, calm and calculated on the battlefield. But today he was doing the exact opposite. His hatred for the Senjus was taking over. Is Tobirama Senju leading them? As Shizu would flinch when he felt the bloodlust just from Naruto's voice alone. They had heard about Madara rivalry with Hoshirama, and Naruto was not much different as he had an unhealthy rivalry with Tobirama Senju. "Answer me," said Naruto, as they all flinched except for Itachi, as Shizu nodded. "Any last orders?" Takashi said, and he was rather obedient. That was a change in behavior given his rather rebellious term, but this was not the time. As Naruto could not stop, for years he dreamed of this moment where he would finally avenge his brother, and it was here. He could not bring himself to care about anything else, not the clan, not the new alliance, not his friends, nothing. Just one thing that he wanted for all these years was right in front of him, and right now he was going to release all of his hatred. "Kill them all," said Naruto. They all flashed away except for one, as the rest of them went to go and control their groups, as Mikoto did not hesitate to come towards him and kiss him right on the lips. As their lips made contact, as she then broke contact as she looked him in the eyes, there was only one thing that she wanted, and her look was giving him that: stay alive. He didn't give any reply, as he was just focused. She gave him one last kiss before moving away, as Naruto's eyes became dull. He had no remorse and no hesitation, because Naruto was not a hero. He was not a savior. He was a selfish person who only wanted to fulfill the desires of his own heart. He was the Kingslayer. He was a cursed man. Meanwhile, Tobirama was on the ground, one finger pressed. As his eyes were closed, his allies were around him. They were anxious. When he opened his eyes, he saw the worried gaze of his little brother, Inuma, looking back at him. Their flanks are too strong, but the center formation looked breakable. "Then let me attack and tear their ass to pieces," Akio Inuzaka said. But Tobirama shook his head. "You will take the left flank, and Sasuke Sarutobi shall take the right. I, Inuma, along with the Senjus, will attack, along with a few Akimichis, the center formation. Any side that breaks through is to go straight towards the town and reach the Yamanaka clan head. or possible the Hatake clan head. Hoshirama want them alive and unharmed, understood? Tobirama said. They are traitors. Tobirama turned towards the Inuzaka with a murderous gaze. Do you want to test Hoshirama's patience, he asked. All of them cower because they were all aware of Hoshirama's power. The Senju clan was a kind and honorable man, but he was swift to deal with those that disobey him. Understood, they all said. As their factions started to divide themselves, he started looking in Inima's eyes. And he understood what his brother wanted. You will lead the attack with me, and take commands of our troop on the battlefield. But a firm hand was placed on his shoulder. I'm trusting you, Inma, he said. Lead the attack while I deal with someone that is waiting for me. Who? The King Slayer. Inma froze at hearing that, but he saw no fear or hesitation. Tobirama was the most skilled warrior of their clan after Hoshirama. He was stronger than Inma and Tsunade. But the King Slayer was a monster in his own right, and he was the greatest swordsman across the entire elemental nation. For all that saw him, they said the same thing. He was not someone to be taken lightly. Let me help you. This is between me and him. God knows that he hates me for killing his brother. Anyone that tried to stop him by getting his way to reach me will meet a brutal death. That is why I will confront him before he wreak havoc on our forces. And if I fall, brother, listen, Tobirama scolded. But he got soft when he saw Inma on the verge of tears. God, the boy was even more soft-hearted than Hoshirama. But he was a good fighter, and their people love him, and he was well respected. If I fall, run. Don't try to save me. I can't bear to watch you get killed. Do not throw your life away in vain, Tobirama said gently. He could still remember the day that he killed Tajima Uchiha. The grief that he saw in Kinslayer's eyes. He knew that neither of them would have peace until one of them were dead. In a way, he could understand that Uchiha's feelings hurt more if someone killed their brother or sister, as Tobirama knew that he would be devastated, angry if that ever happened to him. And the Kingslayer are the lost three brothers. The stronger their love, the stronger their hate, and the worse their madness. He could still remember his father's words about Uchihas and the warning in them. It was why that Tobirama knew that he had to be the one to face the Kingslayer, and no one else. Inma nodded, as Tobirama hugged him fiercely. Words could not describe how proud of his brother he was, because in this world of madness and hatred his brother was still a kind soul, something that he wished to preserve. As he gave the command as Akimichi and Senju moved forward, as Tobirama caught up to Tuka Senju, as she looked at him. Look after him. She heard the worry in his tone, as she gave a brief nod. But before he could walk past her, she grabbed his hand. Does it have to be you, she asked. A resigned smile came on his face as he kissed her forehead. It can only be me. Meanwhile, Kagami and Itachi stepped in front of their army. Itachi was the first one to see the Inuzaka dogs charging forward as he flashed Yuhan signs. Sealing art. Several star barrier. Across the forest, several seals that was engraved in the forest line spring to life as the dogs came to a stop. Their Inuzaka partners growled fierce as some of them were also caught in the trap, unable to move. As Itachi leaped up in the air and grabbed a bunch of kunai from his pouch, as he released the entire volley that multiplied. As it shred the trap forces, the entire front line was decimated as the other wave charged towards them. As Kagami crossed his arms, "Gate of opening," he said, as he vanished, as his body was covered by a bright blue flame all around him. It was his chakra spiraling out. The first Inuzaka could not blink as Kagami's fist connected to his head and it burst. Two dogs flipped towards Kagami, but he leaped over them and brought his legs down, crashing their heads down into the ground, ending their lives. The Inuzakas that were known for their taijutsu prowess was stunned when Kagami started to rip them apart one after another without hesitation, as Itachi turned towards his guards behind him. As they all just watched as these two boys decimate more than a dozen ninjas in just a few minutes. With me, Itachi said, as the Hatake and the Yamanaka followed Itachi's lead, as the two factions clash against each other as they start a brutal massacre. Meanwhile, Shisui tense. By his side was Mikoto and Takashi. Hundreds of Akimichi, Senjus, and Sarutobis reached them. Many Akimichi transformed to rolling balls and rushed towards their lines at terrifying speeds. They want to break our line with brute force, said Takashi, as Shisui nodded. Take command and wait for my signal, said Shisui, as Takashi nodded as he moved forward. You think we can hold them, said Mikoto. We will. As she smiled at Shisui's confidence, as his resolve made her ready herself to fight to the death. As the Akimichi started to get close, Shisui raised a single hand sign as thousands of crows rained down from the heavens, Shisui's eyes were closed as the Akimichis turned back and started to run towards their own forces in their ball form. As they started screaming terror. "Now!" said Shisui, as Mikado gave the signal to her brother. Her and her twin brother lead the charge, with the fighters behind them roaring. "Uchiha!" she shouted, as her brother and a few others created a first-hand defense as they went through hand sign. Fire style. Great fire annihilation! It was like a swarm, raging towards enemy, as the flame engulfed a large portion of the forest. All of them combined, the flames were gigantic. Men and women screamed on the opposite side as they were caught in the giant inferno as they were being boiled alive. Some of them even tried to perform water jutsus, but they were cut down by the Hatake marksmen, who were up in the trees raining kunais and shurikens. As Shisui was in mid-air, flying on a giant crow, his hand signs already kept firm, controlling the giant Akimichis. But soon enough he released the Genjutsu. But it didn't last, so he slammed his hands together. Genjutsu. Feel of darkness, he said. The enemies lost their sight as the army moved, as they butchered them. Meanwhile, in the center, the odds were against them. But yet Naruto wasn't going to back down, as he stood there proudly. As Naruto moved as his blade drive right through a Senju's heart, the battlefield came alive as his supporters and his enemies clashed. Weapons, jutsu, lightning release, lightning armor. As Naruto's body got coated in lightning that electrocuted the Senjus next to him, his own ancestral blade got covered in lightning. As he carved through the Senjus and his enemy's armor like it was knife cutting through butter, they didn't stand a chance in hell. As Naruto shot forward, he was like a blur on the battlefield, only leaving behind sparks of electricity. As he came to a stop as his sword devastatingly ripped off the head of a Akimichi. As Naruto twists and ducked under a giant fist before coming back up as he severed the man in two. As Naruto turned as something clashed against his blade, this Senju was stronger than the others. As Inama tried to push Naruto back, but Naruto's strength was overwhelming as the electricity on Naruto sparkled outwards and struck Inama. Inama cried out in agonizing pain. Now he understands why Tobirama told him not to engage his man, but he had to when he saw his people being cut down one after another by the Kinslayer. But now he was gonna die painfully, as that made him close his eyes. Kinslayer! Tobirama blade clashed against Naruto's as he released a burst of chocolate that blew Naruto back, who flipped in mid-air and landed gently on his feet. "Little brother," said Tobirama, as his brother was badly burned. As Naruto looked at Tobirama as he remembered those words. "Be happy, little brother," said Aizen. A roar that sent shivers down many spines of Senju's and Sartobis as a killing intent washed over the entire place. Tobirama looked up as he saw those eyes with nothing but hatred, death, and destruction, like it was about to consume him all. As Naruto gripped his blade tightly, "Tobirama!" he screamed. But guys, be end episode right here. If you want to see the next part, then do like, subscribe, comment down below, turn on that bell notification to stay posted. But I'm out for now. See you guys soon. Peace out.